Hey, it's me, Get to the Root Steph. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have Gary and Linda Horrell from Now and Then on Radio St. Pete as an interview today. And before the official intro of the interview, when I started blabbing, I want to tell you two things. One, a huge thank you to Radio St. Pete for basically letting me interview whoever I want and putting them on the radio. This originally aired on Get to the Roots on radiostpete.com, chopped up into 4 different interview sections. And then I put music around each section so that the show would still primarily play music because it is a music show, but interviews are fun too. And I played a lot of the music that we mentioned in the show, well, that they mentioned more often than not. And I even got into the little Radio St. Pete database, and I was like, I can just look up their tag because I can find their music really easily. I don't even need the tag sometimes. I just hear a song, and I'm like, oh, I know Gary and Linda put this in. This song's great. Anyway, and then my second thing I want to let you know is that this upcoming clip that you're going to hear is one big, long, uncut interview. It is raw, it is focused, and it has all of my mistakes still in there. And man, Linda and I are kindred spirits because we're both like, oh, we're doing so bad. Oh, it's like, because I know I'm really hard on myself, and I saw it in her a little bit in the interview, and she's so delightful. And I was just like, oh man, oh no, don't do that, Linda. No, you're awesome. So a huge thank you to my friends for letting me interview them for the radio show. And this up next is the whole unabridged thing for posterity to hold on to and something that they can use to advertise their show if they want. Thank you guys, and I hope that you enjoy it. Hi, I'm Get to the Root Steph, and I am on location in the Horrell Now and Then studio. They have graciously had me up here today to talk to both Linda and Gary Horrell about their show Now and Then and a couple other things. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yes, thanks for inviting us to be on your show.
Yeah, to chat with you.
Thank you. And thank you for recording this, Gary. So I met Linda and Gary at the Florida Folk Show many years ago. The first person I met walking up to the Florida Folk Show was Linda, and she asked me my name, and she was so welcoming. And then being with Pete and the gang on the show, Gary was always the one with the best jokes, super friendly. And so they made it so delightful, and now they have their own show on Thursdays on Radio St. Pete at 4 p.m.
Yes.
Yes.
Now and then, because we play artists who are performing now, and our legacy artists who performed back in the day.
Mm-hmm. That's where the name came from.
Yep.
All right. So I guess that brings us to our first question. And this one is for Gary. So, Gary, you had a public access TV show. You told me about this in an email and then a radio show. So, how did all of that start? And then where did it lead to?
Well, the way it all started, truthfully, is when I turned 50 years old, I decided I needed to do something. I was no longer bowling or shooting pool, and I bought a guitar. I figured I'm going to teach myself guitar. And I bought a guitar, and I bought my mother a violin because she said she always wanted to have a fiddle. And when I was at the music store, I picked up a card for an instructor whose name was Elan Chelford. So he was my mother's instructor for 4 years. We'd go out and see him play. And then in, I guess it was 2006, I saw an ad in a newspaper, create your own TV show with Pinellas Access Channel. I thought, oh, that sounds fun. I'll go do that. So I started the show, and we called it Folklore, and I brought Elan was my first guest, and I brought a couple of his friends in, and then he told me, he says, well, I got this other group I play with called the Greengrass Boys, which was Elan, Rayford Stark, and Pete Gallagher. So when Pete's there, he says, hey, man, I got a radio show on WMNF, Florida Folk Show. Why don't you come video that? So at that time, the internet was not fast enough to do live streaming. But by 2009, it was. So on January 1st of 2009, I joined the Florida Folk Show doing their video broadcast. Well, his co-hosts kept changing and quitting. So I eventually became a co-host, and I was there for 15 years before. I guess I could blame it on my health with that Saturday morning sitting out in that heat on that front porch at the
Craftsman House.
And my blood pressure would drop so low. I couldn't do it anymore. So we quit. So I quit. So that led me to not being on any radio show. And then you called up one day and said, hey, Jake Kolb's looking for someone to do a show. Would you guys be interested in doing your own show? And I talked to Linda about it, and we decided, okay,
Yeah,
let's
sure.
try it.
Let's do it. So was the broadcast for the Florida Folk Show on YouTube at first, and then it moved to Facebook?
No, it was on a thing
Oh,
called Ustream.
Ustream.
Yes, and it took a long time. Then Ustream got bought out. So, and the other thing, they kept changing the format, so I had to keep changing cameras. So I started out with a really big camera, and every time, I think it was Doug Spears or someone, I forget who it was, come in and says, every time I come in, your camera's a little smaller.
He would notice something like that. He's sharp.
Yeah. But that's also the way I got to know all these people. Yeah, every week you would meet these musicians. And the majority of time when I'm playing musicians, they're people I know. And of course, the Florida Folk Show plays Florida folk songs. Well, these musicians have other music that has nothing to do with Florida folk. So I try to play that part of their CD so I'm not conflicting with the Florida Folk Show.
Right.
And Linda, a follow-up question for you. So I know you are also doing the show with Gary, obviously.
Yep.
How do you pick the music that you guys will play together?
Well, that's interesting because usually, well, there's two ways. Sometimes Gary will come up with, songs, but in his car, he has a thumb drive of 1,400 songs.
2,300.
2,300. And so, and the artist and the song will often appear on the screen. So if there's a song I like, I'll take a picture of it. And then we go through the pictures and just pick it that way. Or it depends on what's happening. If there's someone playing around or something, or there's a festival, we like to focus on those folks.
And sometimes I'll just go into the database. When we uploaded things, we put a tag in Gary and Linda, so we know what stuff is ours. So I can do a search for that tag, and I might get 10 pages of music that we've uploaded, and then I can just easily pick out tunes now that we've been doing it so long.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so my next question is for Linda. So not only is she a host now and then, and she also is a beautiful singing. She's a beautiful singer. She's got a beautiful singing voice. I've heard many recordings of Linda. The first one I heard was when I was on the Florida Folk Show, and I was like, "Who is this?" And then like, "Oh, it's Linda." That Linda. I was like, "Oh!" I got so excited. So I love your music.
Oh, thank you so much.
I play you as much as I can. So how did you get started in music, and what are your current singing or music projects?
Well, my mother had a beautiful voice, and I grew up with a mother who sang all the time, and we always had the radio on, and she was always singing, and so I just grew up. She wasn't in a choir. She didn't do anything outside of the house. It was just her singing, and I guess I always figured everybody could sing. In fact, I remember learning how to harmonize sitting on our porch swing, and she'd sing "You Are My Sunshine," and I just picked up the harmony of that. It's just something I've always loved. It wasn't until I moved to Florida that I considered performing. I was with Charlie Grote for a while, the incredible Charlie Grote, who opens our show every week, and we had a few gigs. And it's just something I've always done. And I've taken voice lessons over the years because I never thought it was, really all that great. And it's just something I enjoy to do. And I guess most recently, what I'm doing is I'm trying to teach myself guitar. And so I'm doing that mostly.
I must share a memory that just popped into my head. We were with the Florida Folk Show. Gary and Linda were still with the Florida Folk Show. I got to be there that day. We were at Creative Grape, which is now called something else, and the Jazz Librarians were playing. And Linda, you got up there to sing a song with them, and you just started telling them what to do, and it was awesome. You're like, in this key, this song, and they looked at each other, and they just were like, yes, we can definitely do that, and it was just such a fun, spontaneous performance. I wish that we had archives of all of this to share, to clip, and to show people, because I feel like there are so many great moments on Radio St. Pete that are just kind of lost to the wind now, that we only have behind our eyes.
That's right. Well, the Jazz Librarians are fabulous. They're really, they're just amazing musicians, and I'm always honored to have a chance to sing with those guys.
Awesome. Okay, so we mentioned your playlist upon playlist and your thumb drive with your 2,300 local songs and non-local songs, because not everything is a Florida folk song. So, who are your favorite artists? Like who is like your favorite indie artists, or which ones really stand out to you? Which ones are you just like, yes, I definitely want to play this song? Like, who just is your favorites?
So you're talking about just people that we play on the radio, not like general music.
Oh, you can say all of it. You can
Yeah.
say general music favorites and then local favorites. We tell everyone everything.
Yeah, truth be told, I grew up listening to stuff like Led Zeppelin and Supertramp and things like that, and that was the music. But when I was really younger, of course, in Chicago, there was a station called WVON,
WVON,
which was
soul music.
Basically,
Detroit,
Motown.
Yeah.
And that was what I was into. And I probably was 19 or 20 before I started listening to other music. I never really was that much of a music fan. And then I come down here and watch how good some of the local musicians were. It just astonished me at how good everybody was. Guys like Keith Hope and Big Jim Allen, and they just
Phil Pate.
play. Yeah. Phil Pate's unbelievable.
Charlie Green.
So I guess
Yeah. What's his stage name?
Yeah, I don't know. Charlie Morris.
Charlie Morris.
Yeah, another guy. Yeah. And so I just start listening to them. I think, yeah, these are great. Now, do I like any of them better than the other? Probably not. I like them all. And I might like one particular song by them, even like Barkin' Barney. He has a funny song about the drunken nursing home. I love that song. And Mike Worrell has Old Fat Guys. I can relate to that so much because I used to go up to northern Wisconsin with 5 other guys every year for 30 years. We went up there and the song was very relatable. But
and we can't forget the ladies. We got some incredible female artists down here.
Absolutely. And
Gail Tripp Smith comes to mind. And but there's the talent
Even
down here
Kelly.
is Jane Kelly. Yeah, the talent down here is incredible.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. And I guess that's all I have to say about that. And now for something completely different.
No, and now for something completely the same. Linda, same question.
Well, again, I wish I had my list of artists and there's such Gail Tripp Smith comes to mind. Help me out. I can't.
Mindy Simmons.
Deb Ruby?
Audrey Auld.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yeah. May she rest in peace. But yeah, it's just I can't think of any at the top of my head. But I was always more into female. Jane Fallon, yeah. Incredible songwriters, too.
Unbelievably.
Yeah. I was always into more female vocalists. I didn't get into Led Zeppelin until I was in my 30s. I know it was kind of a late
When
bloomer.
I first met her, she didn't like my music, which was Led Zeppelin. And then about 10 years later, she's listening to Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
I'm there, what's up with this? You told me you don't like this stuff.
Yeah.
I changed my mind.
Robert Plant, he's amazing. But yeah, just the talent down here is incredible, which is what makes Radio St. Pete such a wonderful radio station. It gives these artists a chance, hopefully, to have more fans and have more people become aware of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So just real quick, is when I was really young, there was a friend of mine named Buddy Monaco up in Chicago, and he would throw on little rock concerts. It was like $0.25 to get in, and sometimes I would work security for it. And he got to the point to where he was throwing rock concerts for big touring bands. And so it was kind of cool that we could get tickets. That's another thing. He knew a guy that worked at Ticketmaster, so he would always get us good tickets. Sometimes I'd buy like 20 tickets, and me and all our friends would go. I wouldn't pay for their ticket, but they wanted them, So anyway, just a little back history of a South Side Chicago neighborhood.
You guys are so interesting. And I say that with like complete genuine love because it's so, Led Zeppelin, huge band, but I love to hear that they're your favorite, I love that. And I love that, Linda, you're just like, oh, you know what? I like them now because I do that with music too. I'm like, I changed my mind. Love this. Okay, so... Oh, yes. So my next question that I have written down here was just asking you guys if you wanted to talk a little bit more about how you came up with the concept of Now and Then, like the today and yesterday.
We were talking about that, and neither one of us can really remember how isn't that terrible how it
Mhm.
came to be?
I have no idea.
I don't know if Jay suggested it or
I
I
don't
just
know.
don't know. But I'm sorry,
Yeah.
it's a great idea.
The other thing is our theme song. We wanted to have a theme song, and I heard the Charlie Groat song like
Yeah.
6 months earlier.
Yeah.
That would be perfect for our show,
Yeah.
and I couldn't remember it for the life of me. We just went on, and then one day it popped up in my car. That's it. That's the one.
Victory.
Yeah.
And I really feel, I think it's appropriate that Charlie open our show because
Yeah.
he was the first real musician I that I ever really sang with
Yeah.
and performed. I'd go to his house every week and for an hour or two and make music, and it was wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful
truth be
memories.
told, I told Charlie about Linda, and I told Linda about Charlie.
Mhm.
I said, "You guys got to get together." So when she finally retired in
Yeah.
2013,
Yeah.
I introduced her to Charlie, and Charlie just knows so much about music. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
whatever, yeah,
The music theory,
yeah,
he had
theory,
an
everything.
interesting life. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, yeah.
and so they would get together like once a week for
Yeah.
2 or 3 hours and
Yeah.
just sing songs, and then a couple times they would perform. They
Yeah.
performed several locations if
yeah.
I think about it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I got video of it
Absolutely.
on this computer somewhere.
He was a character.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to switch gears a little bit because Linda's not just a singer. She also volunteers with the local theater company. And so short story from me. I tried unsuccessfully to get a Canadian group involved with your theater company because they were doing things for the elderly and they were looking for things for the elderly. And I was like, oh, I know someone that volunteers with a theater company that relates to the elderly. This is perfect for you. And the Canadian gentleman that was in a online group with me was like, yes, yes, yes. And then he just like dropped off the face of the planet.
Oh.
But I think that your work is very valuable with them. I think their work is very valuable. Could you save me from this question and tell listeners about the group and what you guys do?
So it's called SAGES, Senior Actors Guild and Education Services. And we have original plays, like not one act, couple scenes. They're like an hour and a half. Anyway, plays. Funny, educational, and it deals with topics that affect older Americans. For example, the play that's going on right now is called Deal Maker, and it has to do with how do we get the car keys away from Dad? How do we get Dad living in assisted living? And they do it with humor, and these are very well-researched plays. It isn't just, off the cuff. The next play they're doing is the one I'm in, which is called Memory Lane, and it has to do with its play about caregivers. For my character, I'm caring for my mother who has Lewy body dementia, and it's helping people how to deal with these things. One of the plays I was in had to do with fraud prevention, and we actually get statistics from like local police departments. We have less fraud because of people being educated by this play. There was a play they did called, I should have done my research before, Defying Gravity, about fall prevention. And again, we also have paramedics that come in at the end of that play, and we learned that they actually get fewer phone calls for people who attend this play. We give them tips on how to, improve their lives. So it's a wonderful organization, and it's always a great group of people. We're all old folks, and it's really fun.
So what comes to mind for me is like knowledge is power.
Yes.
And I love that it's in play form because seeing something like that is going to hit the brain so much better than just being told what to do.
Yes.
If you're shown an example, then it goes into your brain differently. And I think that's much more effective. I love that. I love that. I always love hearing about that. I know that you got interviewed on Radio St. Pete a few times about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's just more people need to know about it because we have a really large elderly population in Pinellas County that like everyone seems to ignore.
Yeah, as far as I know, this is the only group in the nation doing stuff
Wow.
like this. The actual founders were on Drew Barrymore's show. They've been interviewed by local newscasters. Well, and I think what they're doing is so important. And the newest addition to the Sages plays is they have the Sage singers beforehand, and if you're not in the play, you can be a singer. And we try to find songs that somehow are connected to the play, and it's a sing-along, and, you get to make a fool of yourself and get people in a good mood.
Fun!
Yeah.
Now, Linda, don't you have a play coming up in St. Pete very shortly?
Well, yes. Yes, we do, and it is Dealmaker. Don't have that information in front of me.
Well, there is a promo in the database, so maybe you can add that promo in.
I would love to add the promo.
Yeah.
In fact, if you're listening, you're going to hear the promo for Dealmaker right now because this is important to know about, and I love it. I love it. Okay, because that's going to be cut out. Okay, getting back on track. So, other than Dealmaker, which is coming up soon, do you guys have any other projects or plans for your show? Are you going to go see any musicians? Are you going to go anywhere that you want to share?
Well, that's really been my problem lately is because I'm getting older, I don't go out as much. I mean, I can't drink because of my transplant, which let me remind everybody to sign up to be an organ donor. It saves people's lives.
Please be an organ donor.
So, but fortunately, I do see a lot of stuff on Facebook of like live acts, open mics, things like that. And recently, I guess it was about 6 or 8 months ago, I saw this little girl, and I want to say she's 14, 15. Now, if she's 16, I don't want to insult her because, when you're that age, if you tell them you're too young, they get mad. But her name is Ireland Bennett, and Jay ended up getting her first recording, which he played last week. And she's also going to be on L.A. Moore's singer-songwriter show that he does once a month on Saturdays at 1 p.m. So, and he has another young songwriter on that show also. So it's nice to see the young people coming up and writing songs. I know a lot of people are using AI nowadays, which just drives me up a wall. To me, that ain't even music, but that's whatever. I mean, I'm sure people will get mad at me for saying that.
Yeah, people have strong feelings about that. I certainly do.
Strong feelings on both sides. But fortunately for us, Radio St. Pete does not allow AI music, and I'm happy about that.
Me too.
Yes, it's so interesting that you mentioned that. I'm just going to segue real quickly. So I interviewed Lisa Lytle, and her producer uses a little bit of AI, but the singer does the singing. The singer does the songwriter does the songwriting, the musician does the music, but they're doing a little bit of AI like on the back end, on the mixing and production portion of it. And her song that we have in the database, she's from Central Florida, but she's close enough. It sounds really great, but she talked about how she sang in her closet so she get the dry voice. She had to learn more on guitar to get the sound that she wanted. She had to learn how to use the DAW herself to get the recording, and then her producer finished it with a little bit of AI on the back end. So but then there's a website called Sora. I think not Sora. There's a website where you can just type in song lyrics and you can tell it kind of what you want, and it will sing it to you in different ways. Like I did it for my show to make a joke, and I made a joke video of me pretending to sing. And at first I was like, this is so great. And then I heard like 15 of them, and I'm like, oh, I can hear how this is bad now.
Okay.
The exposure of it. And I mean, I know some people use different degrees of AI, but I'm with you guys. Like my music that I do with my buddy, like we're not going to use any AI, but it might still crop up in the production end of things.
Yeah, I can see the production end. It's like using spell check in Word or something.
Yes.
Or pulling out the thesaurus. We're looking for another word. But I don't want an AI voice, and I don't want AI musicians. And even when I use Band in the Box, I always use real musicians who actually are making the chord, right? Playing the chords.
So Linda wrote a song called Seasons, and it's about you never know when someone's going to die, So, you could be, and it isn't talking about the person who's dying as much as like the person's partner. But anyway, I at the time she wrote that, which was quite a long time ago, I was working on some stuff with Melanie Safka and her son, Bo. Now, Melanie Safka, if she played at Woodstock, and she's famous for her song, I Got a Brand New Pair of Roller Skates. Well, I sent that song to Bo, and Bo put a bunch of wind instruments in that song. So if you hear us play that song and you hear those wind instruments, that was put together by Bo Shakarik.
Yeah.
Yes.
Melanie's son. That was very nice of him to do that. He's another incredible musician and guitarist.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so I feel like we're coming to the end of our interview, and I want to thank you guys so much again for agreeing to come on Get to the Roots. I love you guys.
I wish I would have been better prepared. I should have been better prepared.
Linda,
How unlike me.
Linda, you are fantastic.
Thank you, sweetie.
All you gotta do is just be you, and you're you, and you're great.
Thank you.
Gary, you're fine. Okay. Just kidding. Okay, so so I have this like little tradition that I started when I interviewed my first person, and it's kind of like based on Alexis's interviews. She does ABC's You. She has something that she does every time. And so it's not a question that she asks, she just has like a way that she operates. And I was like, I'm gonna end every interview I do with the same question that I still can't figure out how to phrase it correctly, but basically I want to ask people, and I'm going to ask you both, like, what is your message to the world? Like, if everybody out there in the world had to hear you, had to listen to you, had to understand you, like, what would you tell all of those people that are also out in the world?
I would say chase your opportunities. You never know what they're going to lead to. It could be an opportunity you think, I really don't want anything to do with this, but you don't know what it's going to change into. I went to learn how to do a TV show. From there, I ended up on a radio show, and now I have my own radio show. If I wouldn't have done the first step, I wouldn't be here today. So chase your opportunities.
Yeah, good one. I guess gratitude, learn to be grateful, whether it's the fact you can stand up or you can eat or you can see and you can taste and you have a car that drives and you have a roof over your head. And I think if you're grateful for what you have, I think it's a great way to approach the world. Just gratitude.
I remember in my early days of sales training, they'd tell you to get up, look in the mirror and say, today's going to be a great day. And they had a bunch of affirmations that you were supposed to scream at yourself to get your day started.
It sounds like sales.
Yeah, yes. I didn't do them. This ain't for me. But, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah. One thing I like about the internet and and TikTok and Instagram is that you get a lot of these philosophical stuff come by. And I think it's sweet. But anyway.
Yeah.
I go there for the jokes.
That's good reason to go there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the dogs and the kids and all that.
I like to laugh. If you we used to go to these plays in downtown Chicago and they were always sad. I said, I got enough drama in my life. I want a play that makes me laugh. So we start looking for stuff that would singing, dancing, and
musicals.
Jokes. Yeah. So makes a difference.
Yeah.
Stay happy, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much again. Now and Then, Thursdays on Radio St. Pete and radiostpete.com, 4 p.m. When does it replay on St. Pete Sounds?
Tuesday night at 6 p.m.
Tuesday. Okay, excellent. So Tuesday you can catch, if you missed it the week before, you can always catch it on the second channel, St. Pete Sounds, which is so cool that Radio St. Pete takes all of our shows and plays them again.
Yeah, I love that. That's fabulous.
That's really cool.
So thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah. Okay, I guess
that's
it.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Enjoy her show, everybody.
Yes.